If reading feels like homework, this video is for you. I was watching the Very Really Good podcast, which is Curtis Connor, and I remember before he didn't really like reading, and then a couple months ago he said that he picked up a book, and now recently he said he has a tattoo from the book. So he went from an absolute non-reader to now loving reading, getting a tattoo because of a book. And it really just reminded me that anyone can be a reader. Books are for everyone. And I wanted to make a little helpful guide of books that you should pick up or tips and tricks that'll help you enjoy reading more. So if you've never been into reading, or maybe you fell off of reading and want to get back into it, this video is for you. So I'm going to be suggesting books that I love and I recommend as your first book, and books that I've seen proven in the real world get people into reading. So for Curtis Connor, let's start there. He picked up The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. I would never recommend this to a first-time reader just because it's a big book. However, people love Brandon Sanderson's books. They love his writing. It seems to be very accessible for people. And this must be a good recommendation because now we see proof it has worked. Curtis read the Mistborn series, the first book being The Final Empire, and now he's into The Way of Kings. And the tattoo that he got is the Oathbringer sword, which is one of the sequel books to this series. These books start off at like 1,000 pages each. If this size doesn't intimidate you, because the size is what would stop me from recommending it, these are great books. But if the size doesn't intimidate you, or you at least want to try it, so you can go online, here's a tip for you. You can go on to, say, the Kindle store or anywhere where they sell ebooks or audiobooks and sample the book. So that means you could read maybe the first chapter or the first 20 pages for free before you commit by making a purchase. So if either of these seem interesting to you, they are high fantasy books following a large cast of characters. One is following if the Dark Lord won, so an evil person has been ruling this place for 1,000 years, and we have a group of magic users who want to overthrow him. And then this one, The Way of Kings, big, grand, epic fantasy tale. I'm not even going to try to describe it to you because it'll take too long, but these might be a good place for you to start. Next up is a book that I would recommend the most, and I literally have recommended the most. I have told so many people to read these books. I've recommended it in real life to so many people. Some people have read it. The people who have read it do love it. The first one is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. This book has gotten a lot of hype this year, and it is for good reason. I feel like if you aren't a reader, you could enjoy this book. If you are a reader, you could enjoy this book. This book is just so much fun that it kind of changes the way you'll look at books if you haven't read for enjoyment before. It's just a good time. It's highly recommended for people who like video games, board games, Dungeons and Dragons, if you like a fantasy TV show, anything of the sort. But also, I'm not really that into any of those, and I'm obsessed with this series. So I really think it's a book that nearly anybody could like. We're following a man named Carl and his ex-girlfriend's cat named Princess Donut, which I was Princess Donut for Halloween. And aliens invade the Earth, kill most of the people on Earth, but there are some stairwells that appear that if you decide to go down the stairwell into the dungeon, you will be entering an intergalactic game show where you have to fight monsters, level up. There's all sorts of mechanics to the game, but aliens from all over the galaxy and beyond are watching you live on television. That sounds really wacky. It is very wacky. I mean, Carl goes in there in his underwear with no shoes on because it was like the middle of the night when the world ended, and he just has to run around fighting monsters. There's an AI entity that kind of explains the rules of the game, so it's very easy to follow the game mechanics, but it's so much fun. It is like watching a movie or a show in your head, which for those who haven't read for enjoyment, that's what it's all like. Reading for enjoyment is just watching TV and movies without a screen. And this really embodies that. It's really like watching a show. Another gateway into reading could be listening to audiobooks for you. So if you haven't gotten into audiobooks, or even if you have, This audiobook is incredible. There's one single narrator reading the book, and he does different voices for every character, and it's so good. Each voice is so distinct that many people assume it's a full cast narration, but it's just one guy who makes incredible voices. It's so entertaining, and this is my personal biggest recommendation to get you into reading. Next up, I told you I'm willing to recommend books I don't even like myself, and that's what I'm going to do here. So Frieda McFadden. Frieda McFadden started off as a self-published author, and now she's been picked up by traditional publishers, but she writes like a machine. She pushes out so many books so quickly, and people eat them up and love them. I don't like her books at all. And you might wonder why I have 3 of them. I was reading them for a challenge, okay? I was giving her a shot. But The Housemaid is probably her most famous book. This one follows a woman who becomes a housemaid, and she is getting nosy into the life of the people that she works for, and crazy thrillery things start happening. I also have The Coworker here and The Boyfriend. I'm telling you, people love these. People who don't read love these, have gotten into reading because of Frieda McFadden, and also people who maybe read but didn't love thrillers really enjoy these. So I don't think they're great, but even when I wasn't enjoying them, I flew through them. They're so easy to read, they're very digestible, they're very easy to understand what's happening. They're thrillers, so it's mystery, it's action, and there's always like questions you have, answers you're waiting for, twists and turns and plot reveals, which makes them fun and very easy to read. So pick one of these up if you're interested. And then I want to recommend you mysteries or thrillers that I actually do enjoy. So Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. This book has a bit of a sci-fi twist. So we're following a woman whose son commits a crime, and then somehow time starts going backwards. So after she sees her son commit the crime, it then rewinds to the day before. So now she has a chance to interact with her son or interact with the world in a way that she can try to find out why her son did what he did. To her, it seemed very out of character, but she may not have known everything that her son was up to and involved with. So she's going back in time and trying to figure out what happened, where things went wrong. So then it's the day before and the day before and the day before, and she's in this long time going backward situation, which is really fun to read. And I just know when I read this, I was flying through it. So something I think is important whenever you are trying to get into reading is reading fast-paced books. A lot of times, something that I think makes you fall out of enjoying a book is when it takes you too long to read it. So if you're reading 10 pages a day and it takes you a month and a half to finish a book because of that pace, it's hard to really get into the story and feel like you are falling in, becoming the characters in your mind, versus maybe when you can sit down and read 50 pages at a time and then you are fully into the book. If you're trying to get into reading, try to set aside time where you can read without just picking up the book for 5 minutes at a time. Any reading is good, but if you can sit down for maybe 30 or 45 minutes at a time to really fall into the story, especially at the beginning of a book, I think that'll help you enjoy it a bit more. Another mystery thriller recommendation is Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This one is more like a fun rom-com movie, but also there's death involved. There's a dead body. So this woman goes on a date that her family kind of set her up for, and the guy is not so nice, and our main character accidentally kills him. And then she doesn't want to get in trouble, so she's trying to hide the body. So she and her aunties are running around with this body. They run a wedding business where one of them's a photographer, one of them makes the cake, etc. And they are trying to run a wedding while also trying to hide a body, and it's just goofy and over the top, but again, a fast-paced book. So I thought this book was really fun, and it also, I read it in less than 24 hours because I was so engaged. There's always something happening. There's always questions. You're like, what's going to happen next? And again, that's what keeps me into reading. Okay, next is less fun, but one of my favorite books ever, and that is Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. This is a brief history of humankind. This one's a bit of a different recommendation because it's not fast-paced, it's not plot twists, it's history. And I really enjoyed it because the way that it was written was very easy to digest once again. So even though this is a thicker book, honestly looks like a textbook. If you normally enjoy documentaries, if you like podcasts about history, if you want to learn about Homo sapiens from the beginning when there were other Homo species up until now and kind of how the world works and how humanity works and why, I think this one is good. It's so engrossing that it doesn't actually read like a novel, but it feels readable like a novel versus how maybe a history textbook might read. But this one is such a good one, and another one that is big, but I got through it quickly because I was so engaged in the story. So it's not actually a story, again, it's history, but this one is excellent. And since I'm willing to recommend books I don't like, I'm gonna recommend to you Fourth Wing. I feel like if you've never read a book, you've probably heard of this anyways. This book is absolutely so popular, and I'm willing to recommend it even though I hate it because it literally has gotten so many people into reading or back into reading. So this is about a young woman named Violet who goes to a military academy to learn how to be a dragon rider, which sounds like fun. And there's also a love interest, there is combat, there is a lot of intrigue, political intrigue, there is mystery within it, and in theory, that's all fun stuff. I understand why people enjoy it and how it got them into reading. It's really not my taste, the writing style, but again, this has gotten so many people into reading that I have to recommend it. If you are interested in dragons and fantasy, this might be a great gateway to get you into reading. Now I have The One by John Mars. This one I'm recommending because it's again fast-paced, and it also feels like watching a show once again. So this is a sci-fi book where a company comes out with a product where you can, I think it was take your DNA, and with that you can find out who your soulmate is. So if someone else in the world has sent in their DNA to this company, there's some sort of gene in your DNA that'll tell you that one person who you're meant to be with. It is absolutely wacky, of course, that idea, but it's so fun to watch how this story unfolds. This is very fast paced because we're following lots of different characters. There are very short chapters, and each time a chapter ends, you are left with a little suspense or a little reveal moment. So every time you switch characters, you get something that will make you excited to come back and see what happens to them next. When you think about that concept of the soulmates, every scenario is kind of covered of what might happen. So what if your soulmate is already married? What if you're already married? Would you then take this test to find out if your spouse is your real soulmate? What if somebody else is your soulmate? What if you're not gay, but your soulmate is the same gender as you? It's really all covered in here. It's a crazy good time. Obviously a little outlandish, but it's really fun and it really feels like a crazy sci-fi show. And then speaking of sci-fi, another book that will suck you in and it'll be hard to stop reading. Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. We follow this man who one day is walking home and gets kidnapped and then wakes up in an alternate version of his life. From there, things really devolve and get crazy. There's so many twists, turns, reveals, science. It's a science fiction book and it's so much fun. This book has shocking moments. I remember from the very beginning, I read this book, probably 8-9 years ago, and I still remember this big surprise that happened at the beginning that was just like, oh, now I know what I'm getting into. This book is going to be a wild ride. But again, it'll feel like a show in your head. I'm telling you, if you've never read for fun, just try a few books out to see what I mean about you're just watching TV in your head. It's so much fun, but you also get a break from the screen time. All of these books also too are great if you're already a reader, but maybe not into these genres. There's so many books in the world and genres that I really just think if you aren't reading right now, you could be, and you could be absolutely loving it if you find the right thing. All right, so those are my tips for you. If you already enjoy reading, let me know some of your recommendations down below of what you would recommend a first-time reader or someone who's trying to return to the world of reading. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you again with another one soon. Bye.